Celebrate, celebrate, dance to the music. Come on, Paul, celebrate, celebrate, dance to the music. A little Three Dog Night.
There we go.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Weekly Travel Alert. I'm Steve Glenn.
I'm Paul Glenn.
Paul, it's time to celebrate. This is our 100th podcast.
Doesn't seem like we've been doing it for that long.
The Weekly Travel Alert, I'll tell you what, I can remember a couple years ago, I met with Ryan Swihart, and who's our marketing director here at Executive Travel, and said, hey, let's start doing a podcast. I think we did the first one in my office, then we fine-tuned that a little bit, and then came in here to his recording studio. And now we come to you every week with the Weekly Travel Alert. The Weekly Travel Alert actually is a podcast based on the Weekly Travel Alert email that goes out to 100,000 people every week. And we're sponsored by Executive Travel. Paul's the CEO. How long have we been in the saddle now at Executive Travel?
Going into 40 years.
40 years.
40 years.
That's pretty amazing. And so we thank you for joining us, and we hope you'll take a look at all of our podcasts. Where can they find those on YouTube, Paul?
On YouTube, just spell out Executive Travel and should pop up a page that's got everything that we've done. So number 100 now.
You can also find us at our new website at executivetravel.com. We've got the easiest phone number in the world, 402-435-8888. Be sure to visit that site and give our friendly agents a call if you'd like. So this week, Paul, every month we do a index,
an
airfare index. We do a domestic index. We do an international coach class and international. When we say international, basically Europe is where the bulk of it is, and give our listeners an idea of what direction.
What's going on? Yep.
There's a new direction.
It's no longer going down.
It's no longer going south. It's going north. Executive Travel's domestic airfare index jumps $58 in the latest comparison of the next 4 months. Paul, we took the months of December, January, February, and March, and we compared airfares from Omaha to 5 basic primary cities of New York City, Chicago, Dallas, Los Angeles, and Orlando. And on October 10th, we compared it with September 10th airfares, domestic airfares. They went up $58 round trip. That's big.
And I'm not surprised. You know, they're still sitting at $223.
It's a great deal still.
I mean, it's still a great deal, but we had just seen, 4 months straight of declines. And so we knew it was going to bottom out at some point. And we finally hit that bottom. Plus, you got to look at, you're going to have some Christmas travel, some Thanksgiving travel. You're getting all the way out there till March. So people are they're thinking their vacations, trying to get away from the snowy weather that's going to be back here. So it's not a surprise that we're starting to see that go up. Plus, I think some of the airlines have started cutting capacity and pulling some planes out of inventory. So, the airlines are making some adjustments. What had driven the prices down was not enough seats that were full, so they decided they'd take some of those seats out, and then that drives more demand for the limited amount of seats that we've got.
Keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, these are the lowest airfares. What we've done is gone into Google, done Google search.
Google Flights,
and there's a search button on there. And I basically say, okay, search the month of March. Find the lowest airfare, Omaha to Orlando, for example, and it shows the lowest airfare. Now, that may not be United, Delta, or American. It might be Frontier, Southwest, or other things. So the point is, these are the lowest airfares, but it might not be what you get on your preferred airline. And so we see that across the pond over the Atlantic on coach and business class as well. So these are the lowest prices, but it may not be the schedule or the airline that you wish. Number 2 on this week's edition of the Weekly Travel Alert deals with the International Airfare Index for coach fares. And our European Coach Class Airfare Index, basically as of October 10th, average fare to the 5 cities, which I'm going to read those 5 cities, Paul, is Omaha to Paris, London, Rome, Amsterdam, and Athens, is still stayed low, $565.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Man, you got to get up and go to Europe, ladies and gentlemen. It's October, November, December, January, February, and even into March. There's some fantastic prices. It's cheaper oftentimes to go to Europe than into the warmer climates of Fort Lauderdale
North America,
or Miami or.
I was at a meeting last week out in California, and I didn't extend. I was being hosted, but one of the other guys had asked because he had his fiance out there, and they were going to extend their time in California into the weekend, and the rate at a nice hotel in Santa Barbara, California, $999 a night. And then I was driving.
A steal.
I went to Chicago this last weekend, and we were looking for a place to stay on Saturday night. And the Embassy Suites in the suburbs of Chicago, I want to say maybe Naperville, we looked it up, $1,014 a night. So, you look at these airfares, and it's not the big expense anymore. The hotel can surprise you and be where your expense adds up.
Paul, do you ever stay home?
It doesn't feel like it this month.
Okay.
And I'm tired. You can probably look at my face and tell.
So when we say get up and go, Paul actually believes his own language.
I do.
He gets up and go. And when do you do your laundry? I mean...
between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m.
Okay. Here's the round trip average airfare to those 5 international cities. December is $565, January $559, February $558, and March $579. If you're looking for an international getaway, this is the time to do it. They're very low. You know, Paul, I went and looked and said, when will the airfares probably go up to Europe? Here's the special date, May 15th. If you travel after May 15th, you're going to pay higher summer fares. If you travel before May 15th, I'm seeing really good fares to internationally.
That makes sense. That's when summer hits. That's when the kids start getting out of school and the summer vacations start happening. So, the greatest opportunity is if you don't have to travel as a complete family, is you go, because not only are the airfares going to be great, but the hotels are going to have lower rates as well. So, I mean, that's the great thing about it is all supply and demand. And, these airlines have to keep their international lift because they've got to keep their gates and they got to keep that. So they're not going to cut as much because they don't have as much flexibility with these international. In fact, I've seen quite a few announcements over the last couple of weeks of the domestic big three adding more international flights to Europe here this next year.
Right. And another good thing about a May 15th date is often the seasonal flights, Paul, that like, for example, Chicago to Rome, it's back in service again. So you don't have to go to Omaha, Chicago, Newark to Rome. So a lot of those seasonal flights, I think the Denver flight hopefully will come in, the San Francisco flight, all those seasonal flights to Europe come back in by May usually in that case. So, hey, the next headline in this week's edition, the Weekly Traveler reads, business class airfares to Europe are very low but about to climb quickly. Once again, Paul, I found the average is just $3,028 in business class. Now you gotta look for that. It's not easy to find a $3,000. You basically may not be able to find it on United, Delta, or American, but you might.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten a $3,000 business class over to Europe on United Airlines. So yeah, that's one where it's not as unlikely to be one of the big three to do that. But, I think with this right now, you also with international, a lot of what drives the price for business class is business travelers, where their company's paying the price for that. So you also have to have some flexibility. And a lot of times what we see is you have to stay through a weekend, because that tells the airlines that you're not a corporate traveler. Because a corporate traveler, if they've got the ability to fly business class, they're going to get in, get out, maybe 2 nights, 3 nights, and it doesn't matter if it's $3,000 or $8,000. If you have the ability to fly business class, you're going to pay that. So you have to usually stay over a weekend, and then that helps to bring those prices down.
You bet. So we took and measured these to the big cities of Paris, London, Rome, Amsterdam, and Athens for that. This last October 10th, when we measured the business class airfare index to Europe, was 3,000. In December, it was 3,027. January, 3,080. February, $878, and March $31.64. And obviously it's going to go up the next several months. We're going to see this airfare index climb as we start clawing back into April, May, and June.
The beautiful weather and the summer travel.
You bet. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you understand the theme is it's still a great, great time to travel, to get up and go, and we hope you do that. The last thing on this week's edition of the Weekly Travel Alert is these airfares are really low, but I see that airfares for travel after May 15th are going to skyrocket, and that basically comes into what we just talked about. So if you're looking for a great window, we've seen a great time this last fall, this late summer and fall to travel. We're seeing it through the winter. We can't promise what's going to be on the horizon in summer, but what we're seeing, I think, Paul, also is a reflection of what's happening in the economy and in society. And that's what I call people are moving aggressively from possessions to experiences.
Memories.
And they're doing that also as the baby boomer generation is transitioning that wealth into their children. So that'd be like me to you, transitioning. And what we're seeing is that those children and those baby boomers are saying, let's travel in style.
Let's make memories.
Let's make memories. Let's do it right. Let's travel business class, not coach class, because we don't want to sit up for 9 hours going to Europe. And they're willing to take what was normally maybe an inheritance and invest it into an experience, a family getaway.
Memories last forever. Possessions don't.
Yeah, that's right. So I think this is a line. We just saw Delta Airlines announce that they had a great quarter, and most of that came from the front of the plane, business class.
They rely on the front of the plane.
Yeah, and now they're saying the business travelers getting back engaged, but now they're also seeing that the vacation traveler is upgrading to that business class as well.
Yeah, well, and I think it's the culmination. I think coming out of COVID, people had pent up money to spend on those vacations, and as such they decided to go to the next level because they hadn't traveled for a couple of years. And once you go to business class, it's kind of like, as I've said before, once you go on a cruise and you do a balcony or a veranda, you're never going back to not having one. Once you do business class, there's no going back, and we've seen that with about everybody we've put on business
even
class.
Your daughter Faith, who is now 11, right? And your daughter, Faith, is once you got to business class, she probably never wants to see coach class again.
Oh, she won't complain.
No, she won't. No.
I'll complain.
But I know hashtag Snurdly, Ryan Swihart, I got him up to business class once, and he goes, I got to do this again. No more coach. No. And then he says, I'm 6'7" or 8 or 10, or I'm 7 foot tall.
I think he grew 4 inches after that. Just
and
have
he says,
a better argument.
You can't put me in the coach class. You got to put me in the business class. So we'll see what happens to him when we go there this November. We're going to Italy again.
Less than a month.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on this week's edition of the Weekly Travel Alert. I'm Steve Glenn.
I'm Paul Glenn. Please like, subscribe, share, and add any comments or feedback on topics that would be of interest for future episodes. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.